welcome to episode 408 of Retro Encounter, RPGFan's weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and listeners, if you've been listening to RPGFan's suite of podcasts over the past couple of years, you might have noticed an increasing, accelerating discussion on the Yakuza series, Ryu Ga Gotoku in Japanese, and more recently known as Like a Dragon worldwide. I've been playing them since the pandemic began in 2020, and have gotten deeper and deeper into the world of Kazuma Kiryu and Ichiban Kasuga over that time period. And I think now we're ready to have another Like a Dragon episode. This might be the last one for a while, because this is about the most recent game in the series, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is Ryu Ga Gotoku 8 in Japanese. But who's going to join me to talk about the latest Like a Dragon game in this very spoilerific episode? They are Jono Logan.
Hello all.
Tin Manuel.
Hi.
And Gio Castillo.
Aloha.
Hey!
Aloha.
Gio, Tin, and Jono. I think all four of us were really excited for this game when it was coming out, because all four of us, maybe we haven't played every single Yakuza game, but we definitely all liked Yakuza Like a Dragon, Ryu Ga Gotoku 7, which came out in 2020. So let's talk a little bit about how far back we go with Yakuza, but without spending a million years on it, because I've probably given this explainer 20 times on podcasts the past few years. I started playing the Yakuza games with Yakuza 0 in 2020. We did 2 episodes of Retro Encounter about it. I had an absolute blast, and I slowly played every single game in the series, including the Judgment games, but not including the Black Leopard PSP games and some of the Japan-only ones, over the course of around 4 years. And I played Yakuza Like a Dragon, aka Like a Dragon 7, around when it came out, because I knew I wanted to play the turn-based RPG one of these, of course, and I absolutely loved it. It was probably tied with Hades as my favorite game of 2020. And I mean, I knew I wanted to play this day one, moment one when it came out, Infinite Wealth, that is, and I played it incredibly tightly. I think I beat it in around 3.5 weeks and racked up over 100 hours. I can't binge games like that all the time nowadays, but I definitely binged this one and had a blast. So this is going to be mostly a positively toned episode. But I mean, Jono, you and I have talked about these games so many times on podcasts. What were your thoughts going into Infinite Wealth, and how far do you go back?
I go back to, I can actually give you pretty much an exact date, March of 2019. The story goes, I was looking for something to review, basically. This was my 7th review, and I went through the just, what's there, and the review manager at the time, Alana, suggested, well, why don't you give Yakuza a try? And I was like, all right. And I played it, and I really liked it. And then I played Kiwame 2, and I really, really liked it. And then I played 0, and I loved it. And then it kind of picked up from there, where I played through all of the games that I could get my hands on in very rapid progression. And then the remastered collection came out, and I reviewed all of those. And I think I have reviews on the site for every single Yakuza game except for Lost Judgment and Dead Souls. So yeah, I love these games very, very much. There's something about the tone of them that really hits something inside of me. I just adore the style, the graphics, and the locations as well, because going back to Kamurocho always feels like going home in a really nice way, and you get to see how the town changes over the years, and it's nice. It's kind of fun, and it's really weird too, playing one of the older games and going back to an older version of Kamurocho. It's like literally going back to your hometown like 20 years ago, when it's like things as you remember them. So yeah, I think these games are just fantastic, and this game specifically, obviously, was super excited for it. I reviewed it a few months ago. I gave it a 94, and I think it very much deserves that 94.
Excellent. Oh boy, I have some thoughts about the virtual tourism of these games, but I'll save them for now. Tin, I know that you really enjoyed this game, because we messaged back and forth a little bit while we were playing it. But how far back do you go with Yakuza in general, and what were your expectations going into Infinite Wealth?
Actually, I'm one of those who hasn't even played the older Yakuza games yet, and what, like, I didn't know as well. Like back then, all I could hear was that Yakuza was just like a a Japanese version of GTA or something. You know
Oh yeah.
that kind
Oh
of
Good
no.
old chestnut. Yeah.
reputation it had.
I thought that as well through most of the 2010s until I heard people talking about Yakuza 0 on podcasts and decided to finally buy it in 2019 and play it in 2020. So I thought that as well.
Yeah, the marketing
Yeah,
did it no favors.
yeah. So I didn't know about it not until I joined here in the site, and when you guys put out um the primer for the entire franchise, and I was like, you know what, let's give it a try. And then since I do enjoy uh turn based, so I just thought of just jumping straight to 7 as my first game. So yeah, and until now, no regrets. I'm I'm gonna play. I'm gonna start playing 0 uh this year as well. So I'm looking forward to um understanding more of the lore and even all of the memories I went through with Kiryu and Infinite Wealth. So I'm like, even while doing those, I was also like thinking, oh my god, how are the original fans feeling about this? You know?
I will tell you.
Yeah,
I will tell you my feelings about that when that was happening.
I think the RGG gave that proper send off to Kiryu. Even as someone who hasn't played the older games, they really delivered when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I mean I recommend Yakuza 0 highly. Even though I've enjoyed basically every game in the series, I still think Yakuza 0 is my favorite. RPG Fan's editor in chief Mike Salvato is playing his first Yakuza game right now. Yakuza 0. He's been keeping us updated on our social media channels, and it is so entertaining watching him
Yeah.
like encounter these sub stories and host this stuff for the first time. And Majima's famous chapter 3 entrance, which I think probably deserves its own documentary film series. But
Honestly, whenever someone tells me that they are starting Yakuza and they're starting Yakuza 0, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, oh, that's exciting, but there's a part of me that's like, no, keep away. This is going to consume your life.
I encourage people to play Yakuza 0. That's how I act when someone tells me, "Oh, you know, I'm thinking of trying a Monster Hunter game for the first time." I'm like, "No, don't." What are you thinking?
Do you know Final Fantasy 14 has a free trot?
Yeah, oh god. If I mysteriously disappear in 2025, check and see if that coincides with the Monster Hunter Wilds date or
Yeah.
not. Um, but Gio, I think you go back a little further than Tin does with Yakuza and Like a Dragon. In fact, we did a Yakuza episode of Rhythm Encounter last year, and I believe you were the third panelist along with Jono and I. So, what are your Yakuza Like a Dragon feelings in general, and how excited were you going into this game?
I remember like there was like a poll like on our social media channels like before Infinite Wealth, and they were asking like what 2024 game are you most looking forward to? I was like, yeah, it's Infinite Wealth. It's even more than Rebirth or like Persona 3 Reload or something. Like this is the game I was most looking forward to, and that's because I basically played the whole series up to Infinite Wealth at this point, except Lost Judgment, which is fine. It's like a spin-off. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. I was just really excited to see how Kiryu's story would end. Like I was expecting it to end based off the marketing. Um, I mean, we can talk about it at this point, right? Like he
Yeah, I
has,
mean, it's a spoiler cast.
yeah.
It has Spoilercast right in the episode title, so so listeners, you should expect to have the entirety of Like a Dragon 8 spoiled, or and at least parts of earlier Like a Dragon games spoiled a little bit if their context is important to Infinite Wealth. So yeah, we're gonna spoil away starting now.
Yeah, he has cancer. So I was like yeah, I need to see what happens with Kiryu, and yeah, that's that was the main draw. I of course I missed everyone else. I missed Ichi and the gang, and I wanted to see what was up with Hawaii. Like
Yeah.
it looked
Wait.
incredible, the setting, and I think it delivered.
First American setting of a Like a Dragon
Mm-hmm.
game.
That's right. And I mean, Jono, you were mentioning a little while ago how much you love the setting of Kamurocho, and when you play get different games in the series, seeing Kamurocho in different time periods, it feels like coming home. It feels like a very familiar place. I almost like it more when they leave Kamurocho in the Yakuza games, because to me, these games are a form of virtual tourism. Like in Yakuza 5, you go to Kamurocho, Tokyo, and Sotenbori, Osaka, but you also go to downtown areas in Fukuoka, Sapporo, and Nagoya.
Mm. Yakuza 5. You mean the best one, right?
I I value Yakuza 5 highly. I think it's top 3 or 4 for me. But
I love it.
but and they even talk about like regional differences, and like, oh, this curry restaurant in Sapporo prepares it an unusual way because that's a Sapporo Hokkaido tradition. And like I just loved seeing these video game interpretations of different parts of Japan. And so I was fascinated by the idea of them going to a non-Japanese setting, and they went to Hawaii, which probably has more Japanese people than any other part of the United States, and including many Japanese native speakers, because it's a popular tourism destination for Japanese people. Like, I mean, they take a field trip to Hawaii in Persona 5, for Christ's sakes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so the and there's a video game journalist. There's a video game journalist whose work I enjoy very much, Gene Park. He writes for the Washington Post, but he lived in Hawaii for many years. And in his review, he even mentioned that it would not be unusual for people in the tourism or hospitality industries being able to speak some Japanese for the Japanese tourists. So a surprisingly large number of people speaking or understanding Japanese in Honolulu is not that crazy. It is maybe a little crazy that everyone perfectly understands Japanese in town. And
Yes, the
that,
little boy running the lemonade stand was like,
yeah.
really? This kid's Japanese is amazing.
And but I have to admit, I really was amused seeing like all the chatter in English around you, like hey, watch it, asshole, like when you're walking around. And the sort of the stereotype of Americans being overly friendly and being able to just going, hey, aloha, to everyone around you, felt very, very, oh, these are Japanese people portraying Americans, like one specific American thing. I loved it. I thought it was all like done in a very funny way, and also in a way that was just them trying to capture Honolulu a little bit. And I've
Mhm.
never been to Hawaii, but now I kind of want to go. And I mean, and I went to Yokohama for the first and only time in my life last summer, and I even stayed in the hotel that's in Yakuza 7. um but it's called Hotel Grand Blue Marino instead of Hotel New Grand there. I mean, I recognized parts of Chinatown and stuff. It was incredible, and I just loved the virtual tourism of these games, and exploring Honolulu was so fun and exciting for me. Gio, you go next. What was something about the Honolulu of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth that you found, I don't know, fun, surprising, appealing? Follow your heart.
Oh, they didn't shy back from showing the ugly side of Honolulu. District 5 was kind of shocking to me in how squalid it was, and just that general area. And I think it's true to life because I think there's a lot of problems in, Hawaii and like the U.S. in general. I like that, it's nice in some parts, and it's like unbelievably depressing in other parts. And also, I share in your like amusement that some at least in the Japanese dub, like some of the English speaking characters sound like they're native Japanese speakers, but not English speakers
We'll
like
get to that in a
Bryce.
little
Yeah,
while. I think.
I think Bryce is by far the worst candidate there.
So
Tomizawa's
bad.
English
It's
is
so
not
bad.
great. Chitose's English surprisingly good, but I think she's supposed to be native Japanese, just visiting Hawaii.
Yeah, but she's also super rich, so she probably got English lessons on a very high scale when she was a child.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they did bring in some celebrity actors, celebrity American actors for the first time for this game. They've done that for, the Japanese games since the very beginning. But they got Daniel Day Kim to voice Ebina and
Right.
Danny Trejo to lend his voice and likeness to the character Dwight Mendez.
Hmm.
And I have to admit, like, it was a lot of fun fighting Danny Trejo in this game. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, he had some of the best boss fights, especially the one with the shark. Yeah, really, really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, these games have had like awesome boss intros since
Mm-hmm.
the very
Yeah.
beginning. Dwight's first one at the hotel is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Dwight's ending also is one of my favorite narrative conceits with the villain, like a secondary villain, where it's like they're going away laughing and you see them going into the distance, and then they just like their car crashes or they go out. Like they go out in some horribly anticlimactic way, which it just makes it even more hilarious.
I like how he dies off, like off focus, off camera focus, like just
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
background.
like in the far distance, you just see his
Yeah.
boat suddenly like crash and then him get eaten by a giant shark.
You don't even hear anything. You don't hear screams. You just see it's
Yeah.
like, oh, the boat's gone. All right, well that fixes that problem.
Honolulu is incredible. Tin, what were your feelings about seeing Honolulu recreated for this game?
Oh, uh, for me, I'm gonna talk more about how the location was designed. What I really like about in this new map is that at every corner there's really something to do, or like there's like I know there's some shops as well that you can't really enter, and the NPC is just by the door, which is totally fine for me. But I like how they really tried to like compared to other open world games where there are a lot of some spacious areas or empty areas, I'd say, and a lot of them are also like repetitive. But in Honolulu, I I didn't feel that way. Like I was so ready to explore every area. So that's the reason why I guess I also ended up doing all the side quests in the map. And every single time I would go back to Japan in the game, I would just, oh man, I want to keep playing more in Hawaii. Like I would always look forward to the chapters more in for Ichiban because of that reason. So yeah, I just adore how they designed the entire area, and I think they should try to explore other areas in the future.
Yeah, the map felt very dense and didn't have a lot of empty spaces. Maybe some of the highway areas were kind
Mm-hmm.
of open, but that like there was stuff going on in every part of the map until you really get into late game and sort of scrub every side quest and every map icon away to the best of your
Yeah.
ability. But there's stuff to do everywhere. I never felt like I was bored in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So Jono, are you like me and seriously considering a Honolulu vacation now?
Yeah, it was a pretty damn amazing location for this series, and you're right, the virtual tourism aspect of Yakuza and Like a Dragon is, it's an incredibly important part of the series, and they just nailed it here, especially considering I think the entire team is native Japanese. I don't think they had any real people from Honolulu on the team. So it's actually quite impressive. I know they went there for a while and they, researched and everything, but it seems like they really captured it and captured the feeling of a American tourism city. It was full of energy, full of life, somewhat exaggerated. Obviously, I don't think the real Honolulu has like random thugs walking around beating the crap out of anyone.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think it's true that every Monday night everyone shuts their doors because the Barracuda gang prowls the streets
yes,
openly.
exactly. I mean, they do that with the other locations too. I mean, Slowsy, you went to Kabukicho. How many fights did you get into while you were there?
I did not spend much time in Kabukicho at all, but
Oh, really?
Yeah, I stayed in Ikebukuro in Tokyo and only visited Kabukicho very, very briefly when we were doing something else in Shinjuku,
Wow.
pretty
So
close by.
so you weren't there long enough to get in a fight. If you
No,
like
no,
wandered around
no.
the streets for like 5 more minutes though, it definitely would have happened because that's what it's like there, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, when I went to the Kamen Rider restaurant, I thought about getting into a fight, but not with the other people in the restaurant.
Um, yeah, Hawaii is wonderful. I also think it starts pushing the boundaries of what you could consider to be a walled garden into a open world because it's pretty damn big. Um, Something I realized while we were talking, Tin, you mentioned earlier that I mean it's very annoying, but people used to say that Yakuza was the Japanese Grand Theft Auto, the Japanese
Mm-hmm.
GTA, and clearly it's not.
Yep.
But one similar thing that both series do is create fictionalized versions of the cities that they exist in. So, for example, Kamurocho being a fictionalized version of Kukicho, or in the case of Grand Theft Auto, like Liberty City being New York City, or Los Santos being Los Angeles. I feel like the difference, and maybe I'm missing this because obviously I'm not native Japanese and I have never been there. I feel like for the purposes of GTA, these locations are used satirically. They are satirical versions of these cities, where the cities in Yakuza Like a Dragon tend to be very accurate in terms of the feel and the businesses presented. It feels like a fictionalized version, but not a satirical version of these cities.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree on that. Especially how like a lot of the areas really look like uh, the one in real life, and they just changed the branding and whatever. So it really mimics a lot about um, not just even the location itself, like the design of the location, but even how the location feels as well. It
Mm.
it it's really a complete mirror.
Yeah, the main problem with setting a Like a Dragon game in America, even though Honolulu does have a huge Japanese population, expat population, is the fact that everyone speaks English. It's the national language, and unfortunately, like we talked about earlier, that does mean there are a few cases where language usage is weird. I didn't play the English version, the English vocal track. I played in the Japanese, so I was greeted with some odd portrayals of Americans that made me go, "Oh, that is." I kind of wish that they had pulled from the English dub for some of the dialogue, if it
Hmm.
matched, just to improve the quality of some of the English dialogue. Um, because I've compared the two. I watched a few YouTube videos of it, and I don't believe that they are they're. I don't believe that there are any two voice actors shared between the two, even for bit roles. Um, and clearly, like the English version of Honolulu it sounds much more American for obvious reasons. And when you had things like Bryce, for example, which oh my god, that it killed me, guys. It just killed me. It was like it there are some certain moments in Yakuza where like for the first little bit I was like, okay, I'm just gonna headcanon this guy, even though he looks like Scandinavian as he grew up in Japan. That's where I'm going with. He's from, and then it was instantly, oh no, he is, this guy is American. He grew up in America. Okay.
But like even like Andre Richardson's dialogue in Yakuza 3, and seeing him again in this game was a shock. I don't know if you knew this, Tin, but the bartender at Revolve Bar is one of the main villains of Yakuza 3, who you last see falling off a building.
Oh yeah, I did ask
From the
Gio.
rough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
From the rough.
because
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
like, why are there reactions like that seeing him? So I was like curious.
Yeah,
So
but like even his English dialogue in Yakuza 3 is sounds like it's, performed by a native English speaker. And even when Mine goes, "Hello, okay, got it. There was no change in the plan," in English in Yakuza 3, it's like that felt like, "Oh, that's a Japanese person speaking English." Um like Bryce is supposed to be an American Nate who's been in Hawaii for decades and is speaking fluent English, and it did not sound like that at all. It was English spoken by an elderly Japanese man that did not feel right. But If that broke immersion a little bit, I mean, I would be amused at all the English dialogue around you, but then also amused that everyone perfectly understands your Japanese, except for when it's inconvenient for the plot. It's but in general, I loved Honolulu. There is a real chance that I will vacation in Honolulu this year or next year, and I will be looking to see what similarities I can find between the real version and the Infinite Wealth version.
Yeah, it's a good advertisement for tourism there.
Actually.
But this game does not begin in Honolulu. We start out in Yokohama, and all four of us have played Yakuza Like a Dragon / Ryu Ga Gotoku 7, but and feasibly for one of these games, you always feel like this is going to be the first Like a Dragon game for somebody, for any of these. I mean, no one is expected to play every previous game before they get to the new game. I think this would be a really rough start if you haven't played Yakuza 7 already, because they drop you right in Yokohama. You see Nanba, Adachi, and Sayako in the first several minutes, interacting like old friends. They maybe explain some gameplay stuff, but this really piggybacks right at the end of Like a Dragon 7. I mean, this wasn't the case for us, but I think it would be a struggle if this was your first Like a Dragon game. At least for story and character reasons, because they deliberately go deeper into Ichiban's character, and there's an implied knowledge that you already know the main cast of Like a Dragon 7, except for Eri. Poor Eri.
Well, she's doing good though. She's building her business into an international enterprise.
She's doing great. I still missed her a little bit and her stapler gun attack.
Like one of the first things you do in the game is like you check in with like Arakawa and Masato in the shrine, and like I mean it's there for new players, like if you want to like basically know who they are, but it's like it's really an a way I wouldn't recommend to like get to know them. I'd really recommend people start with Like a Dragon.
I don't think you need to play every previous Yakuza game to enjoy this one. Or, I mean, and Tin's living proof of this. But I think this would be a struggle to play and understand this game without playing 7 first.
Yeah, I'm
There's
glad
a lot going
7.
on.
Yeah, and especially the ways, Ichi's relationship with Eiji kind of mirrors his relationship with Masato, and and of course like the connections Arakawa and Sawashiro have with
Yeah.
Ebina and all that. So it's really you'll be lost. You would be lost if you don't.
It'll be hard to relate to what's going on.
Yeah.
True. I mean, I don't think that every sequel needs to be super accessible, though. Like, I mean, yeah, you're not going to know what's going on in Back to the Future Part 2 if you don't watch Back to the Future Part 1, but then just watch Back to the Future Part 1.
Yeah.
Like, certain sequels, to tell that story, you need full familiarity with the characters and scenarios from the previous entry. Like, you need to.
Yes, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I think that it's harder for some games than others. Like you can with some series, it does not matter what your first one is for the I mean, I don't know, like Pokemon or Final Fantasy, for the most part, if you start it with one of the main entries, you're fine. But with something like Trails, you can be completely lost if you pick the wrong one to start with. And for Like a Dragon / Yakuza, I think almost all of them are understandable enough, but are more rewarding if you've played the previous ones. I think that I think 7 is a great first Like a Dragon game, but 8 would be a not nearly as good first game, just because there's so much implied knowledge about everything that happened in 7.
Yeah, 7 was a perfect jumping on point because all of the story, the characters, the main things that were going on, all of that was completely new, and there were tons of Easter eggs. And of course, Kiryu shows up midway through, but like even there, Kiryu's role was it was necessary, but not like super important. In fact, I think I've mentioned this to you before, Sollosi. I remember somebody on the internet saying for Kiryu, literally the entire plot of Like a Dragon is just a sub story.
Yeah,
like him having the fight with him having the fight in the Burning Remains with Ichiban. That when Ichiban enters the door, you could have heard the sub-story music play as Kiryu walks away. And frankly speaking, that would have made me much happier because it would have meant that Man Who Erased His Name would never have happened.
I don't dislike The Man Who Erased His Name quite as much as you do, Jono, but I am a little bit miffed that it was sold as a fully fledged $50 game. But we're not here to talk about that one. We're going to be here all night if we really are going at this glacial pace of the episode. But anyway, the game starts out in Yokohama. Ichiban is working for Hello Work with the sort of more specific goal of helping former gangsters that are jobless after the dissolution of the Tojo clan and the Omi alliance, and helping them back acclimate into society, because there's a lot of anti-yakuza and anti-former yakuza laws that are making it really hard for people out there. And so Ichiban is helping.
Real, aren't they?
What?
Which I believe are real.
I believe they are based on real ones, but maybe not quite as specific as they're like it's very hard even for someone that has a former felony or former yakuza activity to even buy a cell phone. Ichiban is helping some former gang members. He gets into a fight with one of them, of course. He runs into Nanba and Adachi. Adachi's running a security company and hiring some of the people that Ichiban sends to him. Nanba works at a medical technology office, and as a former nurse, he has some familiarity with that field at least. And Saiko is still working at a hostess bar where she helps run it. But then sort of everything falls apart for Nanba, Adachi, and Ichiban at the same time, where a news VTuber or a scandal reporting VTuber who has had some audience and some popularity on the internet basically puts an attack video on Ichiban Kasuga out and is highlighting him as someone who's taking advantage of ordinary people and helping former yakuza commit crimes again, and just with some creative presentation of video from the first chapter makes it seem that way. Basically, and so Ichiban, Nanba, and Adachi all lose their jobs almost simultaneously, and they end up going back into the Seiryu clan headquarters. The Seiryu clan was a smaller yakuza group from Yakuza 7 that is still around in Infinite Wealth, because they're able to trace something back from the VTuber to them. There you meet Sawashiro, the who's now a second in command of the Seiryu, and was one of Ichiban's yakuza bosses from Like a Dragon 7. There's a lot more to Sawashiro than that, but I'm trying to simplify it a little bit. And then the new leader of the Seiryu clan, Ebina. Ebina and Sawashiro are they even reveal that they hired the guy that Ichiban had tracked to the Seiryu, the guy he was helping at chapter 1, and they're also running some kind of a waste disposal or sort of missing items business, running through a complicated series of vaults. That seems pretty impressive when you're Ichiban encounters it for the first time. But so you meet Sawashiro and Ebina briefly, and Sawashiro says, Ichiban, I gotta talk to you tomorrow. It's something important. And that is really what kicks off the main story. But I skipped over something that's maybe more important than any of that. Ichiban goes on a date. And Ichiban's been in love with Saiko for some time now. This game takes place 3 or 4 years after the events of Yakuza 7. He likes Saiko. He his boys Adachi and Nanba take him out shopping and tell him what to say and what clothes to wear and stuff. You go on a date with Saiko that starts out sort of rough, but ends up with them having a nice time. You get into a fight with somebody, because of course you do. And then, in one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've ever seen in a video game, Ichiban goes into a rambling paragraph all about Saiko and what he could do for her, and proposes marriage to her on their first date at Hamakita Park. And I had to pause and take a walk around my house before I could go back to it. I was feeling the secondhand embarrassment so hard. And Saiko doesn't even acknowledge his proposal, and she just with incredible discomfort, she just walks away with a sort of a dismissive goodbye, and then fast forward 1 year, the two of them have not spoken for a full year. Oh my god, it was so painful. Uh, I mean, that whole scene. Let's talk about it.
I think you summed it up pretty well. Actually, it's a painful scene for so many reasons. Um, but I mean, it's a perfect example of who Ichiban is, in comparison to the previous protagonist, who we will re-meet later. Uh, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's an idiot. An incredibly kind-hearted, good person who is just not on the same page as a lot of other people. Possibly because he spent so many years in prison and he never got, he never really grew up.
uh, Actually, after that date scene, I felt that Psycho really likes Ichiban, but she likes him, but at the same time she's mad about it because that's how Ichi expressed his feelings over on the first date.
I mean, they revisit this later in the game, but I think if Ichiban told Saiko, "I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" she probably would have said yes, and it would have gone
Yeah,
very well. But
yeah.
instead, he talks about what he can do and how
The
I'm kind of stupid,
future.
but I'm trying my best, and then
Yeah.
proposes marriage. Was exactly the wrong thing to say to her, and it takes Ichiban literally almost the entire game to realize this. Like, this game has 14 chapters, and I think it's like in a conversation in chapter
Oh, it's a
12 or
great
something
realization moment too.
is when he realizes that he said
Yeah.
everything absolutely wrong.
He just starts screaming. It's great.
But yeah, anyway, where Ichiban is before the he crashes the Seiryu headquarters is he's lost his job. He teams up with his old friends, and the woman he loved will not talk to him. So it's he's hit rock bottom again, and so I mean they even I mean calling him the dragon from rock bottom, and the idea that anyone can pull themselves up from rock bottom is a recurring theme in both Ichiban games. But fast forwarding it a little bit again, the next day, Sawashiro tells Ichiban that his mother, who was presumed dead shortly after Ichiban was born, is still alive and living in Hawaii. And in fact, he Sawashiro had found her several years earlier, like even something like 20 years earlier or more. But she sort of asked him, "Please stop looking for me, and don't tell Masumi." So he kept that promise, but he decided to. I mean, now that Masumi Arakawa is dead, he decides to tell Ichiban, "Your mother Akane is still alive, and here's a letter she sent a long time ago." And then Ichiban takes a plane to Hawaii, and there he meets several new people. Um, he meets a disabled man named Eiji on the plane, and he helps Eiji get around town a little bit. And they encounter each other a couple times. He gets held up by his cabbie right out of the airport, Eric Tomizawa, a half Japanese cabbie who's working for the mob after he fell into some debt. And then after Eiji helps him out of the problem with Tomizawa, Ichiban is able to locate his mother's house, but she's absent. But Chitose, her housekeeper, is there, and Chitose hits on Ichiban a little bit, gets him drunk, and Ichiban rebuffs her advances. But then he wakes up in the middle of the beach in Honolulu with no clothes or possessions anymore. So he has a very eventful first day or so. And after Ichiban escapes police custody, he's saved by none other than Kazuma Kiryu, the hero of the first 7 Yakuza games. I say 7 because 1 through 6 plus 0 are all or mostly about Kiryu. And remarkably, while Kiryu is also looking for Akane, because a Japanese organization called the Daidoji faction, which does backdoor political stuff, is also looking for her. And Chitose is not Akane's housekeeper, but also seems well. I think she was maybe
She was
working
until
part
she
time.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, I guess Chitose is a college student that was working part time as a housekeeper, but she doesn't know where Akane is either. And the mob boss that Eiji works for, Yutaka Yamai, is also looking for Akane. So eventually, with Kiryu, he meets Eric Tomizawa again, and Chitose again, and even Eiji, the guy in the wheelchair from the beginning again, and all four of them decide to look for Akane together, with Eiji sort of working from the Daidoji's base, and Chitose and Tomizawa sort of accompanying you, and that, with those being your sort of starting four
Mm.
in Honolulu. But a lot more than what I just said is going on. You run afoul of Yamai's the Yamai Syndicate gang, which is a mostly Japanese gang. Also the Barracuda gang, which is led by Dwight Mendez, and they are mostly local Hawaiians and Americans. Um, and also a Chinese gang led by a guy named Wong To, and all of those gangs plus the Daidoji faction plus the Hawaiian police are all looking for Akane, and it's at first it's unclear why. And in fact, before you recruit Chitose, you're trying to infiltrate the Barracuda's base, but while Chitose like was working for the Barracudas and almost betrays you to them until she decides to decide with you anyway. And even though and I mean going back to Ichiban's endless empathy and endless belief in others, Tomizawa literally tries to mug and shoot him. Chitose knocks him out and leaves him naked on a beach in Hawaii. Yet Ichiban immediately trusts them and wants them to be his friends like a day after all of that happens. And the crazy thing is I mean they're sort of the two new companions in this game, other than Sanhee, who we'll talk about. I love Sanhee, but she'll come later.
Yeah, they're the new Psycho and Namba.
Yeah, they are like the Honolulu Psycho and Nanba, and I really enjoyed getting to know them. Yeah, let's talk about Tomizawa and Chitose.
I think they're great new additions to the cast. They, obviously, Tomizawa. It's not just the fact he looks like Namba 20 years earlier, but also he kind of plays the same role as Ichiban's quote unquote best friend or his best bud in this world, and he's very not unlike Namba. He's very cynical, and Ichiban's, I guess, sunniness teaches him how to be less cynical and be a more positive person who affects positive change in his life instead of sitting in the depression of his life. And Chitose is somewhat similar to that. Like, she is clearly she's clearly manipulating the situation and manipulating Ichiban from the very first moments they meet. And his relentless positivity and trust wins her over and convinces her to go down a different path, which is the nice thing about Ichiban. He very much like Kiryu, he inspires those around him, but he does it in a very different way than Kiryu does.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that because like Jono summed it up pretty well. But I just want to point out how Ichiban's influence seems to like cross over like class lines. Seems like Chitose's from a very different walk of life than Tomi or Ichi. Like, she's very rich.
Her starting class is heiress.
Heiress, yeah. And it just really, I don't know, it really speaks to Ichiban's just amazing charisma, amazing way to connect with all different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, I would agree that he has charisma and he connects with others, but there was zero Riz in that proposal to Saiko. Oh my god.
I like that scene because it humanized him. Like, okay, he's not perfect. He's not like the most amazing people person in the world, but especially with women. But actually, when he's treating what's nice about him when
I just don't think he's good romantically.
I'm not sure if he has an incredible charisma or zero charisma, but he really does connect with others and has an infinite capacity for empathy and belief in others. It's a little weird how he wants to befriend people that have right after they try to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's happened multiple times, and that's I mean
that's most of his friend group, really.
If it wasn't, if like I hadn't played these games and know Ichiban, it would seem impossible, but he makes it possible.
I have to admit, I was a little bit not disappointed, but not even irritated. Psycho knows who Ichiban is. She knows who he is, and that entire horrible speech at the end of it. Yeah, I totally get why she was angry and why she walked away. The ghosting him for a year, I felt, was just like kicking a puppy.
Yeah.
Like, he's an idiot. And he knows it, and she knows he is. And the fact that she kind of didn't forgive him for that, it didn't rub me the wrong way, but I was like, Psycho, he's Ichiban. Like,
Yeah.
this is just who he is. He didn't know what he did wrong. You didn't give him a clue what he did wrong, and the odds are that he would actually come to the conclusion of what he did wrong are literally nothing. So, I don't know. It felt a little weird. Actually, it kind of made me cheer Chitose actually in him, but that's another ship.
Yeah, I chalk it up to Psycho be kind of an avoided person. Like, I just assume that that's who she is. She kind of like avoids awkward situations because she doesn't know how to handle it. It's kind of like
Yep.
an inverse of
Yeah, like in Seven, her drink links about her sister.
She's
couldn't
trying to
confront.
secretly
Yeah.
help her sister without her sister knowing about it.
I think the reason also why Ichiban is no romantic kind of guy. It's because looking back through his backstory again, he didn't grow up with any mother figure at all. So
Yeah, he grew up in a soap land with
Yeah,
with the female sex workers helping
Yeah.
raise him.
that's the only exposure he had.
Yeah, he didn't really have female friends
Mhm.
or a single mother figure, and I mean, he did go to prison for 18 years. There's also that.
Yeah, he went from
Yes.
the age of 24 to 42. He was in prison.
So I think that's also one of the reason. And also going back to that about Psycho uh ghosting Ichiban for a year. I think it's also because Psycho knows that Ichiban would never give up. He's just that kind of guy, I guess. So
That's true. And there was a scene with Chitose and Ichiban on the beach. I really felt like she sort of liked him and was waiting for him to
Oh,
make a
yeah.
move. But
Mm.
instead, he's like, "No, I got a girl back home, but she hasn't spoken to me for a year." And Chito's is just like, "You moron! How?"
Yeah.
That plays interestingly though, because he repeatedly gets laid throughout this game, but every single time it's borderline sexual assault, and it's played for laughs every time. And I was like, this is getting a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it also happens in Seven, but maybe to a less aggressive degree. Ichiban, I mean, these are all optional scenes from sub stories, of course, but Ichiban is like assaulted slash like romantically involved with 4 or 5 others. But in this one, it's played much more for comedy because they're all like people basically attacking him. When in the in the last game, they were likeness characters portrayed by models and actresses they were almost like the replacement for a hostess minigame, all the romance links in Yakuza Like a Dragon. But yeah, I mean, before we continue with the main story, let's talk about the side content a little bit because I think this might be some of the best side stuff Yakuza has ever done, and this is a series known for its side content. I mean,
It's so much.
they have the food delivery mini game that is that is a parody of Crazy Taxi, the classic Sega taxi driving game. They have an entire sub game of Sujimon, where you would like Sujimon were basically degenerates or lowlifes that you would record in the Suji decks and get rewards for in a Pokemon parody. But they ratchet the Pokemon parody up to 11 this time by letting you recruit Sujimon and have them fight in Sujimon battles against each other, and then giving Ichiban a Sujimancer job that increases his stats based on how many Sujimon you have, and then I mean, oh,
But I
what
mean,
else?
that's not all. If you want to ratchet that up even one more, they have Pokemon Snap in the game.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's Sujimon. Yeah, there's Pokemon Snap where you take pictures of the Sujimon on bus routes, and then maybe the one of the densest mini games they've ever had, Dondoko Island. Dondoko being
Mm.
the Japanese word for rock bottom. You basically take this failing resort and clean it up and build it up with buildings from previous Yakuza games, and then recruit guests from either from this game or from previous Yakuza games, and basically it's like a business sim game in the style of a hotel resort, and also a free design. I mean, what do we even call Animal Crossing as a genre? Because it's mostly farming, fishing, and interior decorating, but it's
Life sim.
yeah, sure. It's a life sim slash business sim, heavily inspired by Animal Crossing, but with Yakuza everything, and and for the most part, with the Dondoko Island stuff, I would hand the controller to my girlfriend, who watched me play most of this game. She's the real hero of the story. But then when she wanted to play some Dondoko, I'd hand her the controller. Come back the next day, and suddenly the hour count was like 6 higher, and I had like 100,000 extra dollars in my account.
That's how a relationship is supposed to be, right?
Not just those. Also, the selection of sub stories is really incredible. Kiryu has his own versions of these. When you go back in the segments of the game where you go back to Japan, but I'd like to wait before we talk about those. What do we think about all the side stuff you could do in Honolulu specifically, including Dondoko Island? Because I thought they really knocked it out of the park this time.
Oh, it's nuts. It's completely nuts. I mean, you just touched upon it, but like even more than that, they have the usual things like darts, various gambling games. There's a internet dating mini game in this. The vocational school is back. What else is here? There's
Oh boy, Sega Bass Fishing for the Dreamcast is in this game, and this is how I learned that the Japanese name for that game is Ghetto Bass, which is just great.
There are two optional procedurally generated dungeons, so you can go dungeon crawling in this game.
That's where you get the best armor for basically every character.
Yep. I mean, karaoke went nuts in this game. Not only is every song from the previous game and many other previous games here, but brand new ones too. There are so many songs in this game. Oh, it's crazy.
And oh man, you can even give Psycho the costume from one of her karaoke songs, which I think I forget. I think was the song called Awakening or something. But we called that costume Dark Psycho, and we had Psycho dressed as Dark Psycho the entire game.
I mean, she was Dark Psycho, but that was clearly just an Atlantis Morissette song.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, and something people don't talk about, the music player. Like, you can play music now while you're walking around.
Yeah.
And you
It's
can
so
collect
good.
like Persona and Shin Megami Tensei music, and like
They
random
give you a
obscure Sega
podcast to listen to from a real Japanese podcast host,
Which you can't understand, but yes.
which I couldn't understand, but it was. I mean, it is crazy, and yeah, I found you can play the CDs in any of the karaoke bars, or you can play them on your music player, and yeah, well, like I think they were gambling rewards, but Persona 3 and 4 tracks are there too. So
Let's see
yeah,
here.
like, I played Way of Life around town sometimes.
There's a sequel to Bakimi Tai.
Yeah, Bakadaro. Yeah. It's not
It's-
it's not as good as Bakami Tai, but it's not bad. Bakadaro's not bad at all.
It's not. I mean, some of the songs are not phenomenal. It's a Kick singing Judgment again. Honolulu City Lights is a great tune.
And it's crazy to
So
me that
good.
Nishikiyama and Ichiban have the same voice actor, but when you play this version of Judgment, Ichiban's voice actor is still singing backup, but he sings it in like a different voice than Nishikiyama, because Ichiban and Nishikiyama he's singing them based on his portrayal and not just the same way he did for Yakuza 0.
Mhm. No, there's so many new songs. I mean, and there are some that I just don't really like. If I could love the one that I love. I think.
I think Zhao and Han both can sing that one,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
but it's not great. No.
Awake, I think Awake is actually my favorite one.
Yeah, that's the Psycho song.
Yep.
That song's really good.
I think it's my favorite one in the whole game.
Yeah, actually, I think I would understand if a lot of people who played Infinite Wealth and would just completely zone out and forget doing the main quest. It's very understandable because this game is just like a game of multiple games. There's so many things to do.
Starting around chapter 9 or 10, the entire rest of the game was incredibly easy because I was doing almost everything.
Mhm.
And I spent time in those optional dungeons. So I annihilated the final boss. But But I mean, I it's because I didn't really care about the integrity or balance of the boss fights. I just wanted to do all the stuff, and
Mhm.
all the stuff was awesome.
All the stuff was awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, everything from and what's amazing is just how well they updated and put new spins on classic Yakuza, like a Dragon minigames. Like obviously, Tondoko Island is the business sim. It's the real estate sim. It's the hostess club, and but expanded tremendously in a great way. Like the Sujimon League. The Sujimon League is just the Coliseum, really. Like it's that kind of thing. And they really do a wonderful job of expanding all of these things, and they do it in a way that feels very true to the original series, while advancing what they are developing Like a Dragon into in this turn-based RPG.
Yeah, and apart from all of that, the side quests as well are really, really good. I enjoyed a lot of side quests in Infinite Wealth. I'm actually wondering what are your favorites.
Hmm, that's a good question.
Hmm. Well, I'll go first, and I think mine has to be the one Ichiban had to portray as an action star, like a stuntman.
Oh yeah. Oh man. That car dodging minigame was a little challenging because it screws with your controls a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I saw Ichiban get hit by trucks a lot,
Yeah.
but that was still pretty funny. And oh man, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I really think this is one of the best sub stories I've ever done. So listeners, if you haven't done the Let It Snow sub story,
I was about to say,
yeah, you just skip ahead 5 minutes. It starts out as one of those things that feels like it's going to be one of the more tear jerking, poignant ones. Well, actually, no. It starts out as like one this this is incredibly silly. Oh no, this is incredibly sad. Now we're swinging all the way back to silly again, and then it has the most wildly silly sad ending I've ever seen, where
yeah.
you see this guy throwing ice into the air and being like, "Damn it, this doesn't feel like snow at all." And you see him around town doing that a couple times, and then you discover that his wife has early onset dementia and not very
Mhm.
much time to live. He didn't spend as much time with her as he wanted to as they were living together because he was very dedicated to his job, but he wants them to see snow again, like they did on when they were very young. So he's trying to figure out for her to see snow from her hospital bed in Hawaii. And so like at first he seems like a crazy old guy, then it's like, oh, he has actually a very sad story behind him. And then I now stick with me, listeners, on this one. Ichiban is in the mall and he sees a baby carriage fall down a flight of stairs and safely land but roll away. So you chase after the baby carriage to save it. And when you stop the baby carriage and look in, Patriarch Gondwara, a man at least in his 60s, is inside. He's a minor character from Yakuza Kiwami 2 and Yakuza 7, who is an elderly man and Yakuza boss who likes baby play or dressing up in diapers, drinking milk, and being cared for by by child care workers. And then like when you're like, oh, Patriarch Gondwara, what are you doing here? Then three other baby carriages pull up like like cars, and his cronies pop out and you have to fight them. I'm sorry. And then this ties back into the Let It Snow part because um Ichiban notices some white powder on the ground after you fight and goes, "Oh, what's this? It looks kind of like snow." And Gondwara's like, "Oh yeah, that's just some of the coagulant that they put in diapers. It when you mix it with water, it does look a lot like snow." So then fast forward, the elderly man is speaking to his wife on her deathbed, and they look out the window and snow's falling down, and it's because Ichiban and Gondwara and the other guys are ripping diapers and throwing them and throwing the dust over the side of the building.
It's a brilliant smash cut moment where it's this moment of incredible tenderness and sadness, and then smash cut to a bunch of men in adult diapers on the top of a building throwing absorbent stuff off. It's amazing.
Every like from the moment the you meet Gondwara to the end of that, I was cry laughing the entire time. I it was Incredible. This is immediately in like the upper echelon of best sub stories they've ever done. It was so funny, but also had a some poignancy to it. But ultimately, I'm gonna remember the sad part and the hilarious part equally. Like I can hardly imagine a better sub story, and
Uh,
I've seen almost all of them.
yeah, I took a lot of screenshots and that ending. It really, I really can't imagine how the hell did they come up with uh bringing Gondowara there and combining it with that sad story.
We didn't talk about this on the podcast, but before the Dragon Quest 11 episodes, I asked you, "Oh, have you done the Let It Snow one yet?" And then you
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I started it, but I haven't finished it." And I said, "Just trust me, go and do that one." Because oh man, I mean a lot of them are great. Like we were sort of making fun of the romantic ones earlier, but they're really funny situations, especially with the like Chitose Holmes, Gary Buster Holmes' daughter,
Oh.
misinterprets Ichiban offering to work with her as a confession of love and proposal of marriage. And Ichiban has just had the worst luck with proposals this game. Um, that doesn't go very well for him. Jono, I mean, I still let it snow from you, but did you have a particularly memorable sub story here?
It's not my favorite sub story, but since Let It Snow was my favorite, I think it's a lot of people's favorite. But I'll just do one that's a nice callback to the previous game because its visuals are very very funny, and that was the one with the excavators. Whereas in Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon, there's you end up fighting a monkey driving a
Oh, that was
excavator, and in this game, you're walking down the beach and you see two excavators, and you're like, I'm gonna end up fighting both of those, aren't I? And lo and behold, you do. For a ridiculous reason, they're really old and they don't have battery packs anymore. But thanks to some electric eels,
It was not an
accidentally.
electric eel. It's an
Oh, was it?
electric. It's a rare electric catfish. Yeah.
Yes, the electric catfish. Because of these two electric catfish accidentally getting flung into the spot where the battery is supposed to go, you end up fighting these two excavators. And it, again, has one of the great moments where you're having the nice conversation, the heartwarming, you know, end of the Yakuza sub-story moment. And in the background, you just see two on-fire excavators with the owners freaking out. It's the same joke, but it's just funny because there's two of them now.
Do you know how I knew that there were catfish capable of generating electricity before playing this game?
I do not know.
Mega Man X3 for the Super Nintendo.
Ah, yes.
Yep. But
everything ties back to Super Nintendo's Mega Man X3. Actually, a lot of things do. But that's good sub story. Super good sub stories in this game.
Yeah, and I think not just the sub stories, but the character writing is so good. Every character has a specific side quest called Drink Links, which were also in Yakuza 7, and you get them at certain relationship levels. You build relationship levels by fighting with them in your party or finding I think they're called heart to hearts or one-on-ones or walk and talks. Yeah, I think it's walk and talks, where you just conversations you unlock with your party members throughout town, and the writing on them were so good. I really did feel like I was hanging out with this group of friends and getting to know them, and the this character specific quests going into them were, I think, mostly really great. Like Chitose running away from the family butler that followed her to Hawaii, but then meeting him again. Tomizawa learning about why he got in trouble with the Yamai gang and why he was framed for murder, and then how his wife left him after that, and then reconnecting with her. Even the funniest one I thought was Han's, where you learn that Han actually wasn't supposed to go to Hawaii. He promised Sayako he would stay in Japan, but then he left for Hawaii and left running the Gomi Jewel to his subordinate. But then his subordinate left Japan for Hawaii to find him, and left the control of the gang in to her subordinate. And then the same thing happened down the line. So there's at least 4 or 5 Korean gangsters that followed you to Hawaii somehow, because Han is oblivious and doesn't understand that his favorite subordinate has a crush on him. I thought all the drink links were really good in this game, like the equivalent of Persona's social links, I guess.
Since you brought it up, can we talk about Sanhee for a few minutes?
Yeah, we can. We haven't even talked about going back to Japan. So let's go back to the main story first, and then to Sanhee. Um, uh, at one point, again, like you're searching for Akane, but Kiryu's illness starts to get really bad, and Nanba and Adachi even followed you to Hawaii to help out what you're doing. Nanba takes Kiryu back to Japan to seek treatment for his cancer, which before this game began, I thought was going to be lung cancer due to his years of smoking, but no, it turns out it's leukemia from him spending some of his time with the Daidoji faction working in a nuclear reactor. But or maybe it's a nuclear waste storage area. But so yeah, there's, I think you can still have Kiryu smoke cigarettes even though he's literally a cancer patient in this game. But so Kiryu goes back to Tokyo. Nanba's with him, and he connects with Sanhee, the Korean gang boss from Yakuza 7, and she and Nanba become your first teammates in these new Kiryu sections, because starting with I think chapter 8, you alternate between Kiryu chapters and Ichiban chapters for most of the rest of the game, and Kiryu's team is himself, Nanba, Sanhee, Saiko. Again, she does everything she possibly can to be in this game, other than talk to Ichiban, and Zhao. While Ichiban's team in Hawaii are the newcomers Tomizawa and Chitose, alongside Adachi and Han. But Han doesn't join you in Hawaii until chapter 13, which I have a bit of a problem with. So anyway, in Kiryu's segments, um, uh, basically to how do I put this? Instead of having dedicated sub stories, you still have your walk and talks with your team and your bond character bond stuff. But he has memories of a dragon, where you basically find places throughout Yokohama and Kamurocho, Tokyo, where he remembers a character or situation from a previous Yakuza game, and that increases one of his mind, body, or technique stats. Or I could be getting one of those. Maybe it's spirit instead of technique, but it increases one of those stats, and as he get and instead of the personality stats that Ichiban has, and those will increase some of his powers in his Dragon or Dojima job. But several of these will like even bring back characters from previous Yakuza games that Kiryu can secretly observe, because uh, his old friend Makoto Date is trying to get Kiryu to acknowledge his past, and with the goal of maybe Kiryu will take his cancer more seriously if he realizes how many people care about him. But so that's the thrust of most of the Tokyo chapters. I mean, there is the continuing story with with the main villains of the game, who we'll get to eventually, I promise. But most of it is, at least for me, most of it was Kiryu remembering previous games, reconnecting with characters from his past, even though he didn't meet most of them, and especially, for the first time, he's the leader of a party and not running solo. So Kiryu develops really sweet friendships with Nanba, Saiko, Zhao, and Sanhee. But my favorite of those four, by far, was Sanhee's admiration for Kiryu, a little bit of a professional crush, where I mean, Sanhee's a very, very cool lady, a former assassin. She's a gang leader, but she is also revealed to be kind of a big Kiryu fangirl, and also a total dork. And I just love Sanhee in this game. She's maybe one of my favorite characters to just spend time with.
Yeah, the relationship is amazing between her and Kiryu. It's one of my favorite parts of this game. The fact that she has such a ridiculous crush on him is absolutely adorable. It's so funny, and it's so well done too. It's never like in your face, and she's certainly never like pushing herself onto Kiryu. Um, but it's really sweet and lovely. It's a really nice moment, especially considering all of the backstory of her and uh, her group's history with him.
That's right. I mean, the Gomi Jewel doesn't really interact with Kiryu, because and even enlists his help in Yakuza 7. That made me, when I see Saiko's professional crush on him, I'm like, oh, she was probably really eager to work with him when he sought them out for the surveillance stuff
Oh yeah.
in Like a Dragon. But no, but really, because the Gomi Jewel mostly formed from remnants of the Jingwan Mafia from Yakuza 2 and 6 and a couple others, and Kiryu was he didn't physically kill him, but he was involved in the death of the first Jungi Han that our current Jungi Han is the body double of. Like it's kind of wild that that he's making such a positive connection with her. But the drink links in this part were Zhao is one of my favorite characters in both games. He's like him and Kiryu going to an arcade to play games together, and his drink link being about like tracking down a belligerent Yelp reviewer.
Oh, you're right.
And then trying to prevent his guys from killing him out of revenge was pretty great. But Tin or Geo, what was something that you loved about the Kiryu chapters in Yokohama and Tokyo?
Oh, well, it's for me. It was really the drink. I'm sorry, the life links, like the big quests where he reconnects with some significant people from his past. I was really surprised with Sayama, with Kaoru showing up. I didn't expect it because I wasn't watching any trailers or anything. So when she showed up, I was like, oh my god. It's like she just completely disappeared after Yakuza 3, and like I never thought we'd see her again. And it was just nice. It was nice. Like she said some nice things about Kiryu.
He's just listening.
Yeah, I love that whole thing. Like from Kazuki and Yuya and Stardust. That was so sweet.
I loved seeing Kazuki and Yuya again, and their pound mate when you summon them is kind of like, oh my god, these two guys have game. Ichiban should have asked help from them before he proposed.
Yeah,
I had it was a very positive surprise seeing that they brought back Sayama. I think I expected Akiyama and Haruka to a degree, but I was not expecting her. That was awesome. And a slightly less awesome surprise was, oh, these two chuckleheads from Yakuza 6 are back. Okay, whatever, guys. So we don't get to see Yuta from Yakuza 6. We get these two guys instead. Oh, great.
Yeah, the two guys who aren't like face actors. So
right.
Yeah.
Oh, but we
Which is
did
always the
see
trick.
we did see Taichi from Yakuza 3.
Oh, that was awesome.
He's all grown up and
Oh, yeah.
And hitting the town. Oh, I loved seeing him again.
Uh-huh.
I was God, if like one of the Yakuza 3 orphans is like a playable character in Yakuza 9 in Like a Dragon 9, I would absolutely love that.
Oh, please. Yeah, I just love, like, for me, that was like the most touching life link of all, because it's like Kiryu saying Taichi was kind of a little when he was younger, but he grew up to be like, a respectable guy. I think it was really good for Kiryu to see that. I think I wanted that for him. So
Yeah, and
that
then
was
they
like probably my favorite.
even bring the taxi cab service owner from Yakuza 5
Oh yeah,
is back. We mentioned Akiyama, we mentioned Date. Oh, we're probably skipping someone important. I'm
Yuki
sorry.
and Koyuki.
Oh yes. Oh my
yeah.
god. I mean, I think that was actually not a life link. I think that was wasn't that a mandatory part of the story, or am I?
Oh, it's a memory of a dragon.
Okay, it's an option. It's an optional memory. But it's not one of the big Date quests. Yes, Yuki and Koyuki, seeing them again was absolutely awesome. Like I love seeing Yuki back in Like a Dragon Ishin last year, and so and having Yuki, Koyuki, and Saiko working together at a hostess club just made me miss the hostess club minigame from Yakuza 0 and 2 even more.
The only thing that I wish, I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't see the Florist of Sai in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he would be the right kind of character to bring back for these. Oh, I'm trying to think of who else there would be. Like you see a lot of characters that died in the random memoirs of a dragon around town. Like there's a Rikia one where you go to the love hotel that they have that scene in Kamurocho. Yep. And they even bring up Ishin, Kenzan, and Dead Souls, where if you but I don't think they bring up Fist of the North Star. If you see like a movie poster that reminds him of those things, but Kiryu thinks of either refers to them as dreams he had or possibly past lives. So which brings all three of them firmly into the canon very amusingly. but I mean separate, but still definitely acknowledged, which is cool.
Okay, I have a pitch here, and this might be going a little bit too far, but considering who the bartender of Revolve is, and I really like the idea that in future Yakuza games we just get all of the old antagonists, but they all just own bars now. Like there's just one in
They all
every
become
game. Like
one
Mine
kingdom.
shows up as a bar owner. Nishiki shows up as a bar owner at one point, with no commentary about who these characters are. Just use the model and let the fans like be like, "What the."
Or maybe the next game should just be set in hell, and all the bad guys from Yakuza need to like beat up Jingu from Yakuza 1 because he's still the worst one of all.
I mean, frankly, Andre Richardson's alive, so like, did he land on top of Mine? Maybe that's how he survived, or like
I would love for Goda and Mine to still be alive, but I
they were
doubt
hinting it heavily
They're-
in
okay.
in Man Who Erased His Name.
Okay,
that-
there's two things that I think are all right, I'm sorry, I'm going to get into conspiracy Sollosi mode for a second. They actually hosted a memorial for dead Yakuza characters or dead Like a Dragon characters in Tokyo in the lead
Yeah,
up
I
to
saw
this
that.
game. And people could go there and leave remembrances or incense for their favorite characters that passed away. And almost everyone that you would think of was would be there that was there, except for two. Tachibana from Yakuza 0 is not there. But I think that might be because he was a likeness character and he would be a little bit hard to include. But I think they did have likeness characters at this event, so I'm not sure why. And the other one was Ryuji Goda from Yakuza 2. So I'm wondering if, I mean, is Ryuji Goda still alive? That would be a mind blow to Yakuza fans.
I mean, it would not be surprising to me. I think that if he does come back, he should come back exactly as the owner of a bar. Oh no, sorry, the owner of his sushi restaurant, because that was his job in Dead Souls, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But then he his arm gets cut off and then he puts a gun on it, right?
Yeah, I know, but in like the real world, it would be amazing to me if Ichiban just like, if there's a sushi restaurant, Ichiban just walks into it and it just happens to be that Goda is like the owner of the restaurant, and it's a big deal is not made of it. Very similar to how various characters did that in Like a Dragon.
We should they should make that game that where that we I think we talked about it before we recorded, where a Yakuza game that has no fighting in it. You just run businesses and hostess clubs, and like Goda can be the protagonist. He's running his sushi restaurant while helping out hostess bars and helping the homeless with Akame from Gaiden. Yeah.
Yeah, they should just make Dave the Diver, but with Ryuji Goda.
Oh my god.
There is, I mean, if they ever wanted to, RGG could do just about anything they wanted to with this series. They still are sticking
True.
pretty closely to, like with Judgment, they've moved back into the real-time combat, obviously, and that's taken over that, and they moved over to turn-based, but they could do anything they want with this series. It's
Yeah.
really flexible.
I've actually been wondering how come they haven't done a spin-off but a Musu one.
A Muso
that-
spinoff. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's extremely relevant because we're doing a Muso episode in a few weeks. I think you just stole my idea for what I'm gonna for a topic I'm gonna talk about in that episode, Nick.
Like a Dragon Warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Oh my God.
exactly.
I'd play a Yakuza Warriors so fast, and I typically don't love those games. But
know
I
what?
mean, before we get too far into speculation, let's stay in this game a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
before Kiryu even goes back to Tokyo, you sort of basically the entire plot of the game takes shape. There is a religious organization called Palakana in Hawaii, not in the real world, and just in this game, that does a lot of charity work and runs an orphanage. And Akane, Ichiban's mother, was the director of that orphanage for several years, and you learn about Palakana while you're trying to find her. But then when you're in the Chinese gang at the hidden casino led by Wong To, shortly after you fight Wong To, one of his cronies, like when Wong To is about to give you information on who the boss trying to hunt down Akane is, one of his cronies tries to attack him and ends up like sending a signal by jumping out of the building to his death. So it's like, oh man, so basically it's very unsettling. But then it's revealed by Wong To that Bryce Fairchild, the leader of Palakana, has been basically behind the entire underworld of Honolulu for decades. He has plants in every crime organization. Dwight Mendez of the Barracudos reports to him. The Chinese gangs reports to him. Yutaka Yamai does not report directly to him, but doesn't really want to cross him either. So he will do jobs and work for him. And basically he runs Polycana on the surface like a charitable organization, but behind the scenes it's a cult where he has influence with the police and politics and business, and the secret island that's protected due to religious liberty. Um, or not because of religious liberty, because it's sacred ground for this religion. Is also has a compound where he raises child soldiers to be his to be his lackeys.
It's
And
dark.
yeah, it's very dark. And then you learn there's a connection to Tokyo, that Bryce Fairchild has entered business with Ebina, the new boss of the Seiryu clan that you met earlier in the game. And Ebina plans on selling all of Japan's nuclear waste to Polycana for safe disposal on their sacred island. And Fairchild implies that there's a way to safely dispose it with like the volcanic lava or something, but really they just dump it into a cove. And they have multiple businesses and nations interested in this deal. So it gets a little bit weirder when you go back to Tokyo. You try to you talk with Ebina and Sawashiro multiple times. You end up fighting Sawashiro at one point, and Sawashiro eventually tells you that we're trying to end the rest of the Yakuza organizations in Japan other than the Omi and Tojo, but Ebina intends on doing that and sending as many Yakuza as he can to death or slavery in Hawaii, because deep down, Ebina hates all Yakuza because he grew up with a single mother that was shunned by her former Yakuza family, and he had a very difficult upbringing. He became a policeman at some point, but then decided to join a Yakuza gang to punish or make as many Yakuza suffer as he possibly could. Turns out he's behind the VTuber that harassed Ichiban with the assistance of Eiji, the disabled man that Ichiban helped at the beginning of the game, and Chitose, who created that VTuber to try to expose her family company's wrongdoings, but ended up spinning out of control after Eiji started helping her. And it's very convoluted and weird, like many Yakuza stories are. But the end game is Bryce Fairchild is a dangerous cult leader in Hawaii. Ebina is probably Ichiban Kasuga's half brother because his mother was Masami Arakawa's fiance before he got with Akane. Uh, and the reason that everyone in Hawaii was hunting Akane was because Akane accidentally discovered that a young girl named Lani is the true rightful heir of the Polycana leadership and not Bryce. So Bryce is trying to kill her, and Akane is trying to protect Lani. That was all out of order and very convoluted. But it basically positions your two parties with two targets. Ichiban has rescued Akane and Lani. He's trying to protect them while taking down Bryce Fairchild, who's exploiting children and polluting polluting the waters around Hawaii and propagating all of the gang activity in Hawaii. While Kiryu is trying to take down Ebina, and Ebina is a Yakuza boss in name, but really, instead of trying to give former Yakuza new opportunities, Ebina is trying to make as many Yakuza suffer as he possibly can. And so Kiryu is like sort of representing the Yakuza old guard versus someone trying to murder Yakuza, while Ichiban is just acting in the force of righteousness uh, against this person who had targeted his mother. It's more than a little bit weird. And I'm kind of surprised that Ichiban never really confronts Ebina, because especially since they might be half brothers, or they probably are half brothers. But what do we think of this end game, or at least this second half conflict? Like, setting aside all of the really genuinely good Kiryu and Ichiban side content, what do we think of how the story resolved? Like, not the actual endings yet, but just this late game conflict. Sorry, I've been rambling, but Jono, go ahead.
This comes out of my belief that this really did need to be Ichiban's game, and Kiryu needed to be supporting cast member. I wish that the order of the ending was reversed a little bit. I know that that would have changed the storytelling slightly, but I wish that the order was reversed. So it would have been Kiryu and the gang in Japan, uh, fighting the Yakuza fight, and then switching over to Ichiban in Hawaii fighting the uh, environmentalist fight against Bryce Fairchild. I kind of wish they were switched because they really did give Kiryu the last word in terms of the action, and I feel like story wise and just in terms of impact, I feel like it really stepped on Ichiban's moment as a main character. Also, having Kiryu, quote unquote, die on top, like at the end of the fight, I feel like we find out almost immediately that he's fine. I feel like if he had quote unquote died or looked like it, and then we'd switch back over to Ichiban, we could have had a nice moment of suspense where we don't know what happens to him as we follow that story. It's just a structural thing. I thought both sides were perfectly fine. I thought that the Yakuza stuff is. There's a reason they changed the name to Like a Dragon in America. And I know it was always Like a Dragon in Japan, but I find it to be getting very tired, to be honest. I think this series can do so much more, and they've started to explore that. I was much more involved, entertained personally with the story that was going on in Hawaii. I feel like that was the main story of the game, and we don't end with the main story of the game. We end with this retread of old ghosts and betrayals and Kiryu feeling guilty as he has his entire life over things that really aren't his fault. And I thought, tonally speaking, it didn't quite land for me properly. The stuff with Ichiban did completely. I thought that was great, and I'm really hoping in the next game that it's just Ichiban and any recurring characters show up in sub-stories as fan service rather than being main parts of the overall game. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I would also agree. I also thought of it that way, that I was also thinking that it could have been, well, in my opinion, could have been better as well if like Ichiban was the one confronting Ebina,
Mm.
and Kiryu was also facing Bryce instead because of the what he felt about kids in general, right?
Oh,
With
geez,
what
you're right,
Yeah,
100%.
Kiryu, I mean, cares about the well-being of children so much.
Yeah.
I mean, he grew up in an orphanage himself, and was raising kids in an orphanage that he founded in Yakuza 3.
Hmm.
It's I think like
You're
like
completely right. The wrong protagonist fought the wrong villain.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the environmental conflict could go to either of them, but I think they really focused on Kiryu's like respect for the institution of Yakuza a lot,
Hmm.
which I think
Yeah.
is a less interesting angle than him fighting to save the kids. Well, where Ichiban, like having Ichiban possibly having a half brother by blood in Ebina, and never having him interact with Ebina after that first conversation in chapter, I don't know, 2 or something. It feels like a missed opportunity. I don't know how they would have arranged it, like the mechanics or logistics of getting Kiryu fighting in Hawaii and Ichiban fighting in Japan, but I think you might be right. There's the final battles should have been switched.
I have a question for everyone. I'm just curious if this was my perception because of the game or if this was the actual character model, and I bet I could probably find something on YouTube. The moment of triumph where Kiryu reclaims his identity and slicks his hair back and puts on his suit again. Really, really great moment. I was struck by, and maybe this is my imagination, I was struck by just how big the suit looked on him in comparison to the fit in previous games. Like, he has lost a lot of weight. He's not at his fighting weight at all. I thought the suit was like hanging off him in a weird way, and maybe this was just my imagination, but I liked it. I was like,
I think I think it was deliberate. I mean,
this is good.
yeah, he's lost muscle mass due to his age and the cancer. And I mean, for once, it actually makes sense that he starts the game at level 1
Yeah.
instead of being a dragon right from the beginning. I mean, I always hate it when they do the Metroid thing of like, oh, the same character forgot all of their powers and lost all of their items from game to game. Great, but I mean, I mean, if anything, cancer is a convenient plot device for that this time around. Which is an awful thing to say, but whatever. I'm sorry.
I thought it was super effective though that we see him in his old costume, but he doesn't look like we remember.
He doesn't look quite the same. His hair is definitely grayer. The suit hangs off him a little bit, but they're communicating the Dragon of Dojima is back. And I should mention the one thing I did love about the final conflict in Kiryu's chapter is you fight 3 of your former best friends in chapter 12, the 3 island boys, Majima, Saijima, and Daigo Dojima, because they all have the kanji for island Jima in their name. So you fight the 3 island boys who have abandoned the Yakuza and are working as fishermen in a remote part of Honshu. And it's an incredibly dramatic fight, and I loved the scene where Saiko Sanhee, Zhao, and Nanba intercept the attacks of the 3 guys when Kiryu is briefly exhausted, because like this is Kiryu not standing alone for the first time in his whole career. It's like he has to work with and trust others at in his biggest fights for the first time. And that fight is awesome. But when you're going up the Millennium Tower to take on Ebina, those same 3 guys in their old costumes return and have a brief team up fight with Kiryu for the against some former Omi Alliance guys, and that's a great moment too. So, but that's almost tying like the Kiryu's memories section with the Yakuza centric part of Kiryu's plot.
Yeah, I know the reason, and Tin, I 100% agree with you about the idea of the switching the protagonist. That should have happened. But you have to admit, Kiryu's story coming to an end at the top floor of the Millennium Tower is pretty on brand. But him quote-unquote dying at the top of the tower is thematically appropriate for his story.
And going into the epilogues of the game, I think some of these take place even after the credits. It's Kiryu is in the hospital, and he and Haruka is there to see him, although they never interact, which is again really frustrating, especially since they handle it in a similar way at his life link in an earlier chapter.
Drove me crazy.
Yeah, but Kiryu signs his name as Kazuma Kiryu, so he has not abandoned his name anymore, and he is genuinely fighting his cancer and not giving up on himself anymore. Is I think the takeaway from Kiryu's ending. And Ichiban's ending is he finds Eiji, who is now completely disgraced. He's a former journalist. He faked a disability to get Ichiban to trust him because it would remind him of Ichiban's former charge, Masato Arakawa. And later it's revealed that he's working with Bryce Fairchild and Ebina, and was partially behind the VTuber that ruined Ichiban's life. And then it seems very close to murdering the little girl Lani, who he kidnaps with the Barracudas, and possibly also kill Chisato when she's trying to redeem herself and stop Eiji in one of the later chapters. Eiji is proved to be a traitorous scumbag at this point. But in Ichiban's ending, he finds where Eiji lives. Eiji is badly injured because the drugs he used to fake his disability weren't perfectly safe. And Ichiban carries him to a police station for Eiji to turn himself in, while a crowd is throwing things at them and even attacking them. And it was a strange ending, but I think the one thing about that I did like is that it's just proving over and over Ichiban's endless capacity for empathy and forgiveness. That he cares more about Eiji doing the right thing and pulling himself up from rock bottom eventually. He cares more about that than anything that could happen to himself. But it's still awkward. And also, Eiji was such a dick towards the end of the game that he doesn't feel like a character that should be redeemed. But I guess that's the point. I mean, Ichiban believes everyone deserves to be a chance at redemption. So I liked that thematically of Ichiban's ending, but I'll say I liked the other half of Ichiban's ending better, where he confesses to Psycho, said he was wrong, that he likes her and wants to start a relationship with her. She says yes, and then Ichiban rips off his shirt to reveal a T-shirt that says "I love Saiko" on the front and "I love Ichiban" on the back. And when he turns around to give her copy of the shirt, she's out of there. She's departed. So Yeah, I liked the comedy part of Ichiban's ending way more
Mhm.
than the AG
Melodrama.
redemption part. Yeah,
Can I make a
but maybe I think the biggest disappointment of this ending is the ending to 7 was so incredible. Like you had this cathartic fight against uh Tendo, the man who killed Ichiban's father, and Aoki, the like Ichiban's sort of former good friend who was twisting the Yakuza and Japan into some dark vision. Like it was such an emotional release fighting them, and then Aoki slash Masato like dying tragically in Ichiban's arms at the end is
Mm-hmm.
so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not match it for melodrama or emotional impact at all. Even
Mm.
though I think good choices were made, especially the hope of Kiryu reclaiming his name and fighting for his life. Like I actually liked Kiryu's ending more than Ichiban's, but it did not land as successfully this time around, I think.
Can I make a pitch for? This is complete fan fiction for how I really wish they ended Kiryu's story. I thought of this when you were talking. How I really wish they ended the story. They could have ended it almost the exact same way. It's Kiryu in the hospital getting chemo. Uh, what I feel like would have been really, really good and would have gotten the moment that we all want is if they ended it almost identically to Yakuza Zero, where it's a long hallway in the hospital and Kiryu is at one end of it, and he turns and he sees Haruka at the other end of the hallway, and it's literally the exact moment where he and Majima see each other across at the ends of the streets, and it should have ended with her saying, uh, with
Oji-san, yeah.
yeah, Oji-san. It should have ended on a shot of her face saying Oji-san. I would have that would have been a nice mirror reflection of the end of Yakuza Zero. It would have given the audience what they wanted, where you had a moment where finally they reconnected, but you didn't get to see the aftermath. I feel like that would have been better. But no, they.
I'm mostly glad they gave him a hopeful ending and didn't kill him. I think I'm not sure there's a way to gracefully kill Kiryu, but
Mm-hmm.
they gave him an ending with some finality and hope. But also, I mean, he's not going to be a playable character in Like a Dragon 9. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real.
You know what would have been amazing? If they killed him and then in Like a Dragon 9 he showed up owning a bar.
Oh man. But I mean, I really feel like this game did so many side things incredibly, and so much dialogue and character work incredibly. Like I think this is one of the strongest casts in an RPG possibly ever, because you have the six main characters of Yakuza 7, which was already really great. Um, and now with a playable Sanhee and Kiryu returning as an RPG protagonist now, and I really like Tomizawa and Chitose. Like these 10 are awesome, and the dialogue and character interactions and the drink links and life links, like all of these character moments are incredible. But the major plot points of the story, it starts out really intriguing, but then like it's just the ending, Ichiban reuniting with Akane is just sort of a shrug. She's like she's sorry she wasn't there for him, and she felt like running this orphanage was her way to care for as many children as she could because she could never care for him. And Ebina like feels like Ebina could have been a dark reflection of Ichiban, the way that Nishikiyama, Goda, and Mine are dark reflections of Kiryu. Like he did also grow up without a father figure, and with his life made that way because of the Yakuza. But Ichiban grew up just filled with nothing but love and empathy for others, and Ebina grew up thinking of a way to take down as many gangsters as he could, and when he couldn't with the police, he did so as a gangster himself.
Hmm.
I feel like it just did not have the melodrama or the conceptual things as strongly as some previous games, but these characters are so good. Yamai, who is a gangster you fight near the beginning of the game, and who was exploiting Tomizawa at the beginning, eventually helps harbor Akane. You fight him a couple times, and he's not a likeness character, unlike Tomizawa or Chitose and Dwight or a few others. So he might come back for a future game. But when you go into Yamai's backstory about how he was in love with a Yakuza boss's wife, and he killed the boss for her and was framed for the murder, and she ran off with someone else, like, but then he gets to reconnect with her before he goes to jail. Like, it's like I would be thrilled to see Tomizawa, Chitose, Yamai, or any of these characters in a future Yakuza game, because the character work is so strong in this game. But the actual bones of the story weren't as good for me here. Tin, I think that you're gonna enjoy playing these older games, because now, I mean, those Memoirs of a Dragon hit harder the more Yakuza you've played. And if you're planning on playing Yakuza 0 next, that's an emotionally charged game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on what you just said about comparing it with Seven as well, because I played Seven last year, and I remember like in the late chapters, it's like how the story was ramping up every chapter until it ended. That's how I felt with Seven. It's like there's always a surprise after a surprise after a surprise, and even until the game ended. So I was actually hoping that it would uh, uh, things would turn out that way with Infinite Wealth, but I can see as well probably how they struggled, because um, they were also trying their best to highlight Kiryu alongside Ichiban. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's the story also wasn't as good as Seven, in my opinion. Yeah.
I agree. I think I'm in the minority here. I didn't really like. I felt that the fight against Majima, Saijima, and Daigo was kind of shoehorned. It didn't really work for me because like I didn't buy that they would want to fight Kiryu just because like he kind of um negged them, Brian kind of insulted them, and then
The fight is strange. Like, it does make sense that Kiryu would want to find his closest allies before they start taking on the Seiryu and possibly other organizations. But for them to just decide to fight him because they're not sure if he's the same guy anymore and he insulted them, like, that seems a little weird. Like, the fight, I think, is maybe the best fight in the entire game, but
it is. Yeah.
that's for drama and mechanical reasons, and not for because there's any point to it.
I mean, there's also the argument. Diego, obviously, yeah, of course he would go to like a little shack after he fails. That is consistent with the character for me. Saejima, I can see him going to a shack in the woods, but not because he's hiding, just because he likes the cold and the winter, and he
Well,
wants to fight a bear.
Saejima is always feeling like he has to atone. I mean, he willingly went back to prison.
Yeah,
in
but
5.
I feel like his retirement, going into the woods and hunting, basically doing his sub stories in Yakuza 5, would be perfectly fine with him. Maybe it's just my perception of the character, but I in no way, shape, or form believe that Majima would be in that shack. I was just like, yeah, there's no goddamn way. There's no way. Even if he's getting older, there's no way he'd do it.
He's the one that should be helping Yuki and Koyuki with their new hostess club.
Like, I know why he was there for narrative reasons. You needed the three of them together for the fight to work and for the narrative to work. But it's just, I've seen nothing ever in like, we've known Majima since Yakuza. I mean, technically in the timeline, Yakuza 0, there's nothing in his character that suggests that he would be hiding in the woods. He was just never that invested in the Yakuza to begin with. Like, yeah, he was a high-ranking member, but like, for him, it was the things that the Yakuza gave him, not the institution. He was never an institutionalist. And the failure of them being able to do this, I don't think that's where he would have been. But, I mean, you know, sometimes as a writer, sometimes you have to make compromises of characterization to make the story fit. And clearly, I think this was one of them.
True.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with the story is still that Han joined so late. I mean, Jungi Han I would have liked it way more, even if it was chapter 11 instead of 13. He should have just joined earlier.
It's one of my least favorite things in RPGs in general is when you have a late party member and they show up and you're like, yeah, I'm not using you. I got my team. I know how they work. And you're just like, okay, you're on the back bench. I'm sorry, but I have no use for you.
Mine was the opposite. As soon
really?
as I saw him, I said goodbye to Adachi.
Later,
Adachi,
old man.
you're out.
give me these backstab and high speed attacks. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, we haven't been talking about the gameplay at all. I mean, they really figured out the turn-based combat this time around. It's
Biggest improvement in the game. Not even close.
The team up attacks, the environmental interactions, now characters can actually use more elements than just blunt and blade easily now. The job diversity is awesome. I didn't love every new job, but I had a lot of fun messing around with the job system here. Maybe surprisingly, I think my favorite one, I don't know, it might be Kunoichi for the girls and Desperado for the boys, because they just have a lot of good elemental and status options. But the playing dress up and messing with the job tinkering is good. A lot of the attacks are so over the top and fun. Chitose can summon a bunch of golden retrievers. I loved the combat in this game, so much so that I kind of had fun grinding both of the optional dungeons until I got the best possible armor for everybody. And I mean, we know how much I love weapon crafting. I also crafted every single 7-star weapon, except for the bat covered in poop. That one you need to find like 50 of those golden turds or whatever to make the poison bat. But I wasn't able to find enough.
Not willing to look for all of the oh god, what are they called in Legend of Zelda?
Oh, the seeds, the card
Yeah.
seeds.
Yeah, you weren't willing to look for all the Koroks to get the right amount of poop.
I didn't get enough lunar dragon diamonds either. But I mean this game is like, Honolulu was so wonderful, and the writing of the sub stories and life links and drink links were so excellent. The side content was awesome. The combat felt better than just about any other turn-based combat I've played, like maybe since Dragon Quest XI. Maybe it's better than Dragon Quest XI's. I feel like this game absolutely hit in so many ways, but the end game just being sort of weird. I mean, it did not ruin the game for me, not even close. I love this game. This is a top 4 Yakuza game for me. It's 0, 5, 7, and this are my Yakuza 4. But the I feel like that it ends in a confusing way that makes it a little bit less. But I think we're mostly in agreement here. Like, this game is really, really awesome most of the way through, but there's a few puzzling decisions that could affect your opinion. But I mean, we've already been going for almost 2 hours. I don't want to take up more listeners' time, but I do have a final question for you guys. I mean, we love Yokohama, we love Kamurocho, we love Honolulu. Like Jono said multiple times this episode, the sky is the limit for the Yakuza series. They should be able to do anything they want to make the story they want or the scenario they want. What's one city that you would love for Like a Dragon 9 to take place in, at least in part?
With all the references to the Philippines, like early on, I think they're gonna go to Manila next. No, I feel like that's where Ryuji Goda has his bar too. So.
Oh man.
I would actually agree with that. I mean, not because I live here, but there's just so many places here that they can explore with, and we have beaches here like Honolulu, and we also have like a lot of bars just like in Japan. So I feel like Manila would be like a very diverse, or not just Manila, but like in the entire Philippines, like an entire diverse area for them to explore. And yeah, while I was also playing, I was so surprised that Akane went to Philippines and stayed here. And even before I played the game, I was also surprised that the producer from RGG Studios visited here. So
Oh
yeah.
no, was he scouting
We were
locations?
actually
Was he scouting locations for Like a Dragon 9?
Yeah, in the event he was actually asking us like where would be the next location, and everyone was just screaming it to be here. So let's see.
For me, it depends on whether or not they want to stick in Japan. I mean, that's extremely interesting information and a very compelling argument. If they're sticking in Japan, I kind of hope they check out a new town, or alternatively revisit one that was in Yakuza 5, because they developed a lot of cities in there that weren't really used. if they wanted to continue their across the water international angle, and they needed a population of people, of Japanese essentially, and they wanted to reuse Honolulu, because God knows they probably would reuse Honolulu because that's what Yakuza does, and they put so much work into it. You need a story reason to be there. I think you continue across the pond. You don't go to America. You go to Brazil.
Oh.
I believe,
That's
unless I
true.
missed my guess, that Brazil has a huge population of Japanese ancestry there.
They
like
do.
a huge.
I believe it's the largest Japanese diaspora outside of Japan.
So it would make sense. You'd be able to utilize Honolulu as literally a jumping off point to get to South America.
I think that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is now a very, very popular and prominent martial art, was because a Japanese judo master like married into a Brazilian family.
Like, there is absolutely no reason why they would continue into America proper. I don't think there's really a story there to tell, and I think that gets really far away from the stories that they like to tell. But if they go to Brazil, that will open the door for various permutations of their Japanese heritage.
Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo are both enormous cities with their own very specific problems related to crime and gangs. And it would certainly be a cool place to explore. I mean, what if they have the maybe a big climactic fight on the arms of the Cristo Redentor statue, the giant Jesus statue hanging over Rio de Janeiro.
No, what they should do is like another there's another Cristo Redentor under the statue.
No.
Like,
Oh, brilliant.
No.
That's brilliant. The arms like part and just like everything goes up and a bigger one comes out.
Oh my god. Or no, maybe the Cristo Redentor, like the stone cracks and there's a giant robot Jesus that you have to fight.
I mean,
and its arms are construction equipment.
That goes back to my thought that they should make the next game a spin-off that's just a Power Rangers game.
Ichiban already is a Red Ranger. I mean, just look at his shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely don't want the next Like a Dragon game to be where I live because, I mean, I don't think anyone that lives or works in Washington, D.C. likes Washington, D.C., and the Virginia suburbs are the least interesting place I can imagine a video game to take place in, even though a non-trivial amount of Fallout 3 takes place in the Virginia suburbs outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah, I always thought a cool place for them to go would be Hong Kong, because that's a place with a lot of energy and a lot of turmoil, and it's a very dense city that you could recreate parts of it without like copying it directly. Like I feel like that because these locations in Yakuza games always feel like you're in this new place without copying it like item for item. I think you could do that with Hong Kong, but I think what I want even more is a past Yakuza game taking place in like 1950s Kowloon City in Hong Kong. Like
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, like maybe like a historical Like a Dragon game in Kowloon would be the game that I actually want to play.
So cool.
I agree with you. It'd be an amazing setting. There's no way in heck that they ever do it because I don't think that Japan wants to get into that big a beef with China.
Yeah, they even included a Chinese language dating woman to date in the dating minigame. I think they're more interested in making friends with China than offending China than
considering
by
this thing
putting
has
something.
A full Chinese vocal cast.
Yeah, by putting in Yakuza 0 in the Chinese version, they even recast one character with a Chinese celebrity to make him a little bit cooler. It's the assassin Lao Gui.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they because Lao Gui is sort of ugly and scary looking. They recast him with a handsome Chinese celebrity to be a cooler villain. But so yeah, spoilers 10. There's an assassin named Lao Gui in Yakuza 0. I'm sorry for ruining.
Well, why even bother playing it now?
I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, I mean, I really do believe that they could do anything with Like a Dragon 9, and I will be just excited to play it. It probably will be a while. There was 4 years between Yakuza 6 and Like a Dragon, and then another 4 years between 7 and this game. So we're probably looking at 2028 for Like a Dragon 9, with at least 2 or 3 spin-offs in between. So I mean, whether it's Judgment 3 or Like a Dragon 9, or if they do a PS5 version of Like a Dragon Kenzan, I'm just so all in on these games. I'm absolutely going to play whatever they make next, because even though the ending didn't totally land for me, I mean, and I've only played two 2024 games so far. It's going to take a while. It's going to take something very special to unseat Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth from the top of my Game of the Year list.
It's my game of the year too.
I like Rebirth a lot, but I think so far I'm wishing parts of it were more like Infinite Wealth.
Yeah, actually, I'm playing it as well, and I'm exactly on the same page there. I honestly think that you're right. We'll see a couple of spin-off games. We'll probably see. I mean, it'd be really cool to see the other Samurai game remade or Dead Souls. We'll probably see, if not Judgment 3, I suspect we'll see something with Kaido at some point, because it wasn't just the Kaido Files was awesome, but he also makes a lot of appearances in this game.
Kaido shows up in Gaiden, and Sugiura and the other guy show up in like in this game. They're at I think like Zhao or Han introduces them to you in Survive Bar, but they don't have a speaking role.
Yeah, so I mean the connections are there. I like the fact that they're doing the Like a Dragon cinematic universe. They could expand it too. They could do an entire, for all we know, they could do an entirely new spin-off starring an entirely new cast. Very similar to what they did with Judgment. I would not be opposed to that if they wanted to start a third franchise.
All right, here's my idea. Chitose mysteriously disappears.
Yeah.
And turns out there's some incel CEO that runs a sex trafficking ring based in Manila. So Ichiban has to go back there to save Chitose from this real creepy dude. And maybe Nair from Yakuza 4 shows up, but Tanimura from Yakuza 4 does not.
And Mine has a bar there.
Yeah.
And Ryuji Goda has a bar called Resolve Bar, because they're gonna like end his story for good this time.
I'm not kidding. That's my favorite thing that's come out of this podcast, is that every dead Yakuza character just has a bar now. Without any comment either. They're just there. Just like Survive.
If there's one series that I think of no one ever really dies, you always see them come back again, it's probably Dragon Ball and not Like a Dragon. And I would be remiss not to mention, Akira Toriyama passed away around 1 week ago at the time of posting this episode. And because Like a Dragon was so influenced by Dragon Quest, for which Akira Toriyama has been the character designer from the very beginning, and so much of anime, especially action and martial arts anime, was influenced by Dragon Ball. We've seen manga authors and game creators and artists and fans and everyone just pour out appreciation and support for Akira Toriyama. And I'm gonna miss him dearly. Dragon Ball and Dragon Quest were absolutely formative shows for a young me. It's heartbreaking that we just spent most of January replaying Dragon Quest XI and rediscovering how great that game is, only to hear this awful news around a week ago. So with apologies to the three of you, whom and thank you so much, Jono, Tin, and Gio, for recording this episode with me. But this episode 408 of Retro Encounter is dedicated to the memory of Akira Toriyama-san. So yeah, that was a bummer to end on. But if I'm offering a memorial to a legendary manga author and artist, it's definitely time to end this episode. We've run for over 2 hours, but I really believe that all four of us wanted to get our feelings on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth out there in the open, and we've at least succeeded in doing that, even if it was quite a journey getting there. But we have a lot more planned for Retro Encounter that is a little bit less dragony and a little bit less 2024 than this game. We're doing 2 episodes on Final Fantasy IV, going from the most recent RPG I played to my very first RPG next week. So the first of the 2 is next week, and then we're gonna record a part 2, learning all about Cecil, Kane, Golbez, their multiple betrayals and trials and tribulations. Final Fantasy IV, it holds up, but maybe isn't quite as exciting moment to moment as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. We'll get our feelings out on those episodes later this month. And we were talking about how Yakuza or Like a Dragon would be an incredible Musou game. We're doing an episode all about Musou games in the first week of April. I have sort of disdained that entire series for most of my gaming life. I have complicated feelings about it, but I am playing 3 different Musou games for the first time this month. I've already finished Fire Emblem Warriors, and I'm near the end of Dragon Quest Heroes 1. And so we're going to talk about those and many more Musou RPGs or Warriors games in April. We're also doing a spoiler cast on the aforementioned Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm not very far in that game yet, but I'm definitely going to get to the end in time to record a podcast about it. And Jono, I guess I offhand mentioned Fallout 3 a little while ago, but April is a pretty big month for the Fallout series, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We're getting the Amazon Prime Video is releasing Fallout, which is a 8-episode series that's set in the Fallout universe. It's using this exact same visual style as as Yakuza 4. That would be interesting. Using the same visual style as Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. It looks really very interesting, especially if you're a fan of the series. And, it's because this is the biggest Fallout release since Fallout 76, and God, I hope it's better than Fallout 76. We're going to be doing a few things next month to feature Fallout, including an episode of Retro Encounter, just talking about the series and not any specific entry, but like the whole series. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, Fallout's one of the premier sort of computer RPG / Western RPG series. We've never talked about it on Retro Encounter in detail before, and having a sort of mini Fallout month going on in April, it makes sense to have a crossover episode. But after that Fallout episode, we are doing 2 episodes on Ark the Lad, a PlayStation 1 RPG that spawned a lengthy series of its own. I'm not positive if we're going to do 2 episodes on just the first game, but the first game's quite short, so we might be 1 episode on Ark the Lad 1, 1 episode on Ark the Lad 2. I don't know yet, but we're going to talk with the panelists and and have 2 Ark the Lad episodes in some form or another in the end of April. But listeners, speaking of crossover episodes, there are 2 other fine podcasts on the RPG Fan Podcast Network. Random Encounter, which is hosted by you, Jono, every 2 weeks, and is mostly about randomness and what is going on with RPGFan.com.
Yeah, next episode, I think will end up being about Unicorn Overlord, which is a spiritual successor of Ogre Battle, and an interesting fan game that got released a few weeks ago called Undertale Yellow, which has been said to be almost as good as the original and a worthy prequel. So we're going to be talking about those in just a few days.
And I've heard that Unicorn Overlord is actually good, which is not consistent with my feelings on Ogre Battles.
Well, I guess it depends on how much you like Ogre Battle.
It depends on who you ask, but I would love if Ogre Battle was actually a good game and not a game that sent me into a depression last year. So,
well, spoiler alert: the review is up on the site, and it got a 92.
Yeah,
and Josh loved it. So.
I'm not surprised Josh loved it, but I'm also also not surprised that that Vanillaware released another banger because 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim was one of my favorite games of 2020, right behind Yakuza Like a Dragon, in fact. But not only Random Encounter and Retro Encounter and RPG Fan, there's also Rhythm Encounter every 2 weeks that aren't shared by Random Encounter about RPG music. But if you want to support Random, Retro, or Rhythm Encounter, the best way to do so is to give them ratings or reviews on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iTunes. However you can provide feedback, we love feedback. But there's other ways to support RPG Fan, like the RPGFan.com, where we have articles posting every day. RPG Fan has presences on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, a Discord server, and also a dedicated shop. If you go to rpgfan.com/shop, you can find our apparel store hosted by TeePublic and the sales of the RPG Fan reviews compilation on which is published by Hyperplay RPG, a UK-based publisher. That's an amazing book to check out. Over 300 RPG Fan single-page reviews and a lot of cool apparel on the TeePublic website. But if you want to give us feedback as individuals and not as a website, let's tell the listeners how they can find us, the panelists, starting with you, Jono.
You can find me at jlogan at rpgfan.com. If you're curious about Random Encounter, you can send a podcast. If you're interested in Random Encounter, you can send a message to podcast@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Mastodon at jonologan at mastodon.social.
Now, Gio.
Yeah, you can email me at geo@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on the RPG Fan Discord. I just go by Geo there.
Now, Tin.
You can also find me on RPG Fan Discord. My name there is literally just Tin. And yeah.
And listeners, I'm glad I don't have one of my former social media accounts anymore, but I am still pretty easy to find on the internet. You can find me at Evoker for Dogs on Instagram, Blue Sky, or Discord. But you know, I know that this game was about a money-making scheme for disposal of nuclear waste, but I think that the infinite wealth really, I say this without irony, really was the friends we made along the way. Thank you. Good night, and good luck.